The year Xie Chengyuan was deposed, I broke off our betrothal and married another. 5 years later, he made a comeback. His first act upon returning to the capital was to forcibly abduct me into the Eastern Palace. He forced me to serve his crown princess. He forced me to witness his nightly trysts with the crown princess. He forced me to ingest the poison, making me the catalyst for the crown princess's potion. It's merely the forgetful love potion. What? So reluctant to forget your beloved? I lifted the teacup infused with poisonous insects and drank it in one gulp. How wonderful! I would never have to love him again. When Xie Chengyuan punished me to kneel outside the Changle Hall, snow fell from the sky. The bone-chilling cold pierced my knees like a blade. The palace attendants nearby gloated, "Humph, serves you right." The whole nation knew. Prince Xie Chengyuan and I were childhood sweethearts. A betrothal since we were young. But 5 years ago, Xie Chengyuan was deposed. I hastily annulled our engagement and married another. The current crown princess, however, remained steadfast. Disguised as a palace maid, she endured the bitter cold by his side for 5 long years. So when the crown prince made his comeback, the entire capital waited to see me humiliated. They weren't disappointed. Less than half a month after Xie Chengyuan returned to the capital, he declared the crown princess ill. He invited me, her elder sister, to attend to her in the Eastern Palace. From then on, if the crown princess took fewer medicines, my fault. If she ate less, my fault. If her mood soured, my fault, above all. Just now, I poured a cup of tea for his crown princess. She merely frowned slightly, yet Xie Chengyuan smashed the teacup. Madame Xue has likely grown accustomed to a life of luxury, unaware of what cold truly feels like. Since that is the case, go kneel outside and experience it properly. The ice and snow were indeed bitterly cold. Within half an hour, my entire body had gone numb from the chill. The palace doors opened at that precise moment. "Your Highness!" Fu Ying rushed out, her face etched with worry. "I told you sister is delicate and cannot endure such punishment. Look." As she approached, seeing me kneeling perfectly straight, not even bending my spine, her eyes reddened. "Sister, why must you pretend to be so strong? Just show His Highness some weakness. He cares for you most deeply. He will surely." Before she could finish, a gurgle escaped her throat as she coughed up blood. Rumors had long circulated in the streets. Back then, when His Majesty was in a furious rage, along with the decree deposing the crown prince, he also ordered a cup of poisoned wine. The poison wasn't lethal, but it made life worse than death. A palace maid by the crown prince's side had ingested the poison herself, saving him from the ordeal. But she was left with an incurable ailment. "Jiang man! What are you doing?" Xie Chengyuan strode forward in 2 strides and shoved me violently. Thud, my body, already stiff with cold, fell straight to the ground from the force of the push. Xie Chengyuan froze, instinctively reaching out to help me up. "Your Highness," Fu Ying coughed repeatedly, "please. Don't blame sister. It's my fault, Ah Ying." Cough. Xie Chengyuan scooped Fu Ying into his arms, summoned the imperial physician. I struggled to lift myself, catching just the receding figures of the two. Xie Chengyuan's form was tall and slender, Fu Ying petite and fragile. One strode forward without a backward glance, the other nestled in his embrace, gazing at me, batting her eyes innocently. A world apart from the girl I first met. Back then, I'd gone to great lengths to find Fu Ying. 2 princes perished overnight, and the emperor's most favored consort died mysteriously. All fingers pointed squarely at Xie Chengyuan. The emperor raged, nearly taking his life on the spot. The Eastern Palace scattered like birds and beasts. His confidants were either executed or demoted. I needed a bold yet meticulous maidservant, skilled in martial arts yet appearing utterly ordinary, to accompany him to the northern frontier and protect him. Fu Ying was an orphan trained as an assassin. I paid a hefty sum to buy her freedom, then hired her at a hefty wage. I arranged for her to serve as a palace maid, tending to Xie Chengyuan's every need. Little did I expect. Her tending would eventually lead her into his bed. "Your ladyship, His Highness. His Highness summons you to the palace." The young palace maid bowed low before me, not daring to lift her head. Staring at the blood dripping onto the floor, I stiffly pulled out a handkerchief, wiped my face clean, and rose. Your Highness, the Empress's poisoning is too severe to reverse. Unless... Before I even entered the chamber, the imperial physician's words reached me. Seeing me, he visibly startled. Likely because I looked utterly wretched. Snow and blood stained my clothes. Before Xie Chengyuan could speak, I knelt of my own accord. Unless... The physician continued, someone is willing to sacrifice themselves to feed the poisonous insect, using their own blood as the catalyst. And this blood from a close relative is best. Since Lady Xue is the Empress's elder sister, if... The physician paused at the right moment. My eyelashes fluttered. Feeding the parasite requires the host's entire body and blood to be devoured by the insect for 7 days and nights. It is excruciatingly painful. My hands trembled involuntarily, the scar on my wrist still throbbing faintly. Lifting my gaze, I met Xie Chengyuan's eyes, smiling at me. Madame Xue is ever the sensible one. To save her sister, surely she would be most willing? No. I refuse. My lips moved, but no sound came. My voice, ever since the first time I fed the poisonous insect, had been silenced forever. Since Madame Xue remains silent, I shall take that as your consent. I shook my head. Xie Chengyuan pretended not to notice, propping his chin up as he watched me with keen interest. I've heard of a parasite called forgetful love. Consuming it causes one to forget their deepest love in this lifetime. Madame Xue, shall we use that one? Xie Chengyuan was doing this deliberately. I should have known. Fu Ying was never my sister. He merely needed a respectable identity for her to marry as crown princess. Father felt indebted to him and feared his power. He had no choice but to accept Fu Ying. Since Fu Ying and I share no blood ties, it needn't be me who sacrifices myself to feed the bug. But Xie Chengyuan refused to let me live in peace. He forced me to the Eastern Palace. Forced me to serve Fu Ying. Forced me to witness their marital bliss. Still not enough. He sought to shatter my pride, to make me crawl on the ground, begging pitifully. I returned to the temporary residence in the Lotus Hall. After hastily bandaging the wound on my forehead, I wrapped myself in a quilt and fell asleep. But the cold still seeped through. My entire body ached and froze, mirroring those 7 agonizing days and nights when I swallowed the poisonous insect. Xie Chengyuan was poisoned. He lay unconscious in the Eastern Palace. His Majesty had removed all his confidants and barred imperial physicians from attending him. I pleaded with Father. Father said intervening now would only provoke His Majesty's wrath. I begged the imperial physicians. They all shook their heads, too afraid to go. With no other options, I sought out a wandering physician from the martial world. That physician didn't want silver. He demanded I raise a bug for him. After 7 days and nights, my blood could be used to neutralize the poison in Xie Chengyuan. But afterward, he would forcibly extract the poisonous insect from my body. This procedure carries risks of death or injury, with unpredictable outcomes. Young lady, weigh this decision carefully. Return only when you have fully considered it. I did not weigh it. I nodded in agreement. How deeply I loved Xie Chengyuan. We played together as children, studied together, grew up together. He took the blame for my father's scolding. I covered his mistakes before His Majesty. Year after year, we watched the snow fall, laughing and playing in the snow, sharing the snow together. Growing old together. Who could have imagined? One day, I knelt alone in the snow. The man who vowed to grow old with me was inside the palace, seeking pleasure with another woman. I felt as if I were trapped in an ice cave, yet also as if I had fallen into a sea of fire. After the most extreme cold came the most extreme heat. I wanted to cry out, "Mother! Mother, I'm suffering." No matter how hard I tried, no sound came out. Even if I could, Mother would never come. Father, mother, and brother, all imprisoned by Xie Chengyuan on fabricated charges. He claimed I disobeyed, so he locked them away for life. A chill spread across my forehead. I opened my eyes. Xie Chengyuan held a handkerchief, his gaze tender. He seemed like the crown prince who once loved me deeply. But it lasted only a moment. Meeting my gaze, Xie Chengyuan sneered coldly, "What are you calling out for? Ah, Chang?" Then he seized my wrist with brutal force. "Xie Changting has been dead for half a year. And you still pine for him." My mind was still hazy, but his fierce grip instantly blurred my vision with tears. Instead of loosening his hold, he tightened it, pulling me into his embrace. His hand tightened around my neck as he leaned in to kiss me. I struggled violently. He and I were no longer in a relationship that allowed such intimacy. But the more I fought, the fiercer Xie Chengyuan became. He shoved me onto the bed, pinned my legs, and clamped both my wrists above my head. His other hand began tearing at my clothes. I couldn't hold back my tears. From childhood to adulthood, even when I ran errands for him back then, I'd never been humiliated like this. Xie Chengyuan paused, panting heavily. Man. He wiped my tears, calling me as he always had, man, just enter the Eastern Palace. Just enter the Eastern Palace, and I'll grant you the position of Consort Liang. I won't hold your past against you. From now on, we... Smack! I pulled my hand free and slapped him across the face. Xie Chengyuan's expression turned completely cold. He stared at me intently. After a long moment, he sneered coldly, "Fine. Very fine." He released me and stood up. As he left, he kicked the palace door so hard it shook the heavens. I curled up beneath the blankets, tears streaming down my face once more. How dare he? How dare he be so utterly righteous? I had explained everything to him. I told him the whole story, how that poisonous insect nearly took my life. It was Xie Changting who saved me. He carried me deep into the mountains to seek medical help, returning to the capital only half a month later. To protect the Jiang family from being implicated in the crown prince's case, he claimed I was severely injured while saving him. To preserve my reputation, he even petitioned His Majesty to marry me. For 5 years, he never touched me. He said he only regarded me as a dear friend. The day the crown prince regains his position will be the day he grants me divorce papers. Yet half a year ago, he vanished without a trace. Everyone claims he fell to his death during a bandit suppression mission. But no body was ever found. He saved my life. How could I possibly enter the Eastern Palace as a concubine now, bringing shame upon his family? I told Xie Chengyuan all of this. My life was spared, but I lost my voice and my hands. My once peerless skill on the zither now cannot even hold a needle for embroidery. I endured 7 days and nights, writing a long letter to Xie Chengyuan in my clumsy handwriting. He refused to read it. On the day I entered the Eastern Palace, he burned that letter to ashes before my very eyes. I care only for results, not your excuses. The man I was willing to die for wouldn't even hear my explanation. Your ladyship. It was that same palace maid, still too afraid to lift her head. The poisonous insects are prepared. His Highness requests your presence at Shui Ming Hall. I stared at the teacup before me. The tea contained poisonous insects. Once swallowed, they would burrow through her bloodstream. A torment worse than death. Your Highness, my sister is accustomed to a life of luxury. How could she endure such agony? Perhaps find someone else? Fu Wing hung limply on Xie Chengyuan's arm. When she lifted her head, the mottled marks on her neck were exposed. Xie Chengyuan held her close, his collar still undone. Merely a forgetful curse. He tilted his head. The eldest Miss Jiang endured having every tendon severed to save someone. What is this compared to that? He raised his knee on the bed, his collar slipping lower. Scratches from fingernails testified to the recent intensity. My hands began trembling again. Those 7 days and nights back then couldn't compare to even a fraction of this month in the Eastern Palace. The palace maid's hands were trembling too. Probably from holding the teacup too long. What is it? Xie Chengyuan looked at me and smiled. The smile didn't reach his eyes, so reluctant to forget your beloved. I looked up at him. I looked at him deeply. Forget my beloved, you say? Fine. I never want to remember him again. I took the teacup and drank it in one gulp. I had underestimated that poisonous insect after all. The second time was even worse than the first. But I had experience now. Curled up in the quilt, I tensed my body, letting the pain pierce my heart, clenching my teeth. Endure it. Just endure it. Through layer upon layer of sweat, I began to dream. The dream was filled entirely with Xie Chengyuan. He scaled the wall in the dead of night to bring me peach blossom pastries. He celebrated my birthday twice a year. Once on my actual birthday, and once during the grain's budding solar term. He had long sought out red silk and gold thread. He said my hands were meant for playing the zither, not to be scarred by embroidery needles. He embroidered my wedding veil himself. I don't know how long I dreamt. Finally, these images blurred. Like mist over a lake when the sun rises. Clouds disperse, fog vanishes, light ripples. I stood dazed within the dream. What was I dreaming about just now? Never mind. So sleepy, so tired. Back to sleep. It felt like ages since I'd slept so soundly. A slumber devoid of awareness. Until a faint itch on my forehead. Someone sighed softly. How did you let yourself become like this again? Dazed, I rolled over and brushed against a white robe. I opened my eyes. The man's brows and eyes were serene, his features as handsome as a painting. Strangely familiar. When our gazes met, his tea-colored eyes faltered slightly. A scene flashed instantly through my mind. In a downpour, he knelt on the ground, heedless of the mud staining his white robe. He bowed deeply. Master, I beg you to save her life. I remembered. He was. The hand resting on my forehead curled gently and withdrew. He seemed to be getting up. I held his hand. Looking at him, I smiled. Husband. At that very moment, Xie Chengyuan was heading towards the Lotus Hall. He had timed it precisely. 7 days and nights, 84 hours. Jiang Man should awaken now. Once she wakes, she must forget Xie Changting. Only if she forgets Xie Changting will he forgive her. Xie Chengyuan thought. He would no longer punish her, nor punish himself. He would welcome her into the Eastern Palace. Though she could not be his primary wife, he would treat her as before. Cherish her, love her. She would be happier than as Xie Changting's wife. Perfect timing, such heavy snow today. He could take her out to admire it. They had promised each other. Shared snowfall. Gray hair together. A smile touched Xie Chengyuan's lips. Let it be. Her betrayal, her shifting affections, he would not hold them against her. He approached Jiang Man's bedchamber and silenced the palace attendants' announcements. Shaking snow from his shoulders, he pushed open the door. Man. The chamber doors swung wide. I turned to see a figure silhouetted against the light, features indistinct. But if it were someone familiar, I could recognize them by their form alone. Especially when he called me so intimately man. I studied him carefully, searching my mind. Nothing came to mind. His figure, his voice, even when he took 2 steps forward and I could see his face clearly. Still, no recollection. This man. I didn't know him at all. I frowned, about to rebuke him for his lack of manners, for daring to use my pet name. He opened his mouth, as if to speak. Your Highness. Someone suddenly announced. Prince Xue. Prince Xue has returned. He awaits you in the front hall. Prince Xue. Xue Changting. My husband. The thought of him made my lips curve upward. Earlier, when I'd taken his hand and called his name, he'd actually blushed. For some reason, after waking from my sleep, my mind felt muddled. It was as if many things had slipped from my memory. The one who could make me, Jiang Man, willingly marry him must be someone I adore deeply. He's still alive? That Your Highness sneered, turning to look at me. My smile hadn't yet faded. He seemed to think I was smiling at him, and he paused, startled. His eyes brightened. His chin lifted slightly, smug and triumphant. Man, come with me. Strange. The Crown Prince, I should recognize him. My father is a Grand Secretary of the Hanlin Academy. I often accompanied him to the palace. I even recall the Crown Prince's name, Xie Chengyuan. Yet I cannot fathom any connection between us. Never mind. Just now, my husband seemed to sense something amiss with me, asking with obvious displeasure, "What did they do to you?" I couldn't explain it clearly. He gave a brief order and left. Said he'd come back for me. Didn't expect it so soon. I followed behind Xie Chengyuan. He seemed in high spirits, striding quickly. My knees felt injured, each step felt like a sharp blade tearing through them. Thankfully, we arrived soon. But before I could steady myself, a delicate figure threw herself into the arms of the man ahead. "Your Highness. Where did you go so early this morning?" Aing was so worried. Xie Chengyuan actually turned to look at me. I blinked in confusion. He frowned unhappily, pulling the beautiful young woman into his arms. "Jiang man, since you're willing to cure Aing's poison, I won't hold past grievances against you. Since you've been silenced anyway, I'll personally secure a divorce decree for you shortly. And don't you dare ask who that Prince Shui is, it displeases me. Henceforth, you shall reside in the Eastern Palace. I shall choose a date to grant you a proper status." I stared at Xie Chengyuan, utterly bewildered. This crown prince. Is he ill? Come here. The path is slippery. I'll hold your hand. I looked at the hand he extended as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Then I looked at the woman in his arms, clutching a handkerchief and glaring at me. This crown prince truly is insane. But as he shifted his stance, I caught sight of the figure behind him. A white-robed figure, graceful and distinguished. "Husband." I smiled at him, lifted my skirt, and walked away. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of that rather troubled crown prince, and suddenly froze. His face shifted like a painted lantern, shifting through crimson, yellow, white, and green hues. Then came a thunderous shout, "Jiang man, halt!" I frowned and turned back. Before I could speak, Xie Chengyuan demanded, "What did you call him? Do you recognize him?" He abandoned the beautiful maiden in his arms. "You feign muteness before me?" This man was utterly baffling. How could I not recognize my own husband? My voice was indeed strange, hoarse and raspy. But had it ever been truly mute? Why would I pretend to be mute before him? Just as I was about to speak, someone stepped in front of me. My wife is always like this. She disdains to engage with those blind in both eyes and heart. Those with hearts of wolves and livers of dogs are even less worthy of attention. "Shui Changting, you insolent fool!" Xie Chengyuan roared. The front hall of the Eastern Palace was already filled with guards from the Ten Commandments Bureau. At Xie Chengyuan's outburst, they drew their swords in perfect unison. In the blink of an eye, Shui Changting drew his sword as well, pointing directly at Xie Chengyuan. As if after long-held restraint, "He who harms my wife deserves death." The Eastern Palace fell silent. No one expected Shui Changting to act thus. Even I was stunned. The Shui Changting I knew, eldest son of the Duke's household, was dignified, refined, composed, and reserved. How could he possibly draw his sword against the crown prince in open defiance? "Your Highness." Cough. The beautiful maiden beside Xie Chengyuan suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, collapsing limply against him. I seized the moment to tug at Shui Changting's sleeve. "Husband, weren't we coming to take me home?" Shui Changting paused, startled. The rage in his eyes faded. He sheathed his sword, took my hand, and turned to leave. As his gaze swept over my knees, a flicker of pain crossed his eyes. He picked me up in his arms without hesitation. "If your Highness has the power to reopen a case from 5 years ago, why can't you investigate where the people around you truly came from? Why can't you uncover what really happened during those days 5 years ago when you lay unconscious in the Eastern Palace? Why can't you discern truth from falsehood amidst all the rumors?" Shui Changting didn't even turn his head. Leaving only these cold words, he carried me away in long strides. The Eastern Palace attendants arrived in haste that day, saying their mistress missed her sister. This servant wished to follow, but they claimed it would show contempt for the Eastern Palace. The Eastern Palace has attendants to serve the lady. It coincided with the old lady's critical illness. "Young master, without you here, we had no other choice." Chunlu knelt on the ground, tears streaming down her face. On the way back to the mansion, I pieced things together. I had forgotten many things. Nearly 5 years of memories vanished without a trace. Yet for most people, I retained fragments of information. Names, identities, and such. Like the beautiful young lady just in Xie Chengyuan's arms. I vaguely recall her name was Fu Ying. Later changed to Fu Ying. I seem to have given her a large sum of silver. But why she changed her name, why I gave her silver, I cannot remember. Take Chunlu before me now. I recall marrying off my dowry made in the 2nd year after my wedding. Since then, Chunlu has served me exclusively. Xie Changting waved her away. Chunlu kowtowed and hurriedly withdrew. He lowered his head, resuming the application of medicine. How my knees were injured, I cannot recall either. The wounds were severe. It seemed I had knelt for an extended period, suffering frostbite. Xie Changting looked deeply displeased. His lips pressed together, he remained silent. Perhaps I should do it myself? It wasn't just my knees. My forehead was cut, and there was a burn on the back of my hand. Reaching for the medicated plaster, I exposed fresh wounds on my arm. I hadn't noticed them before. They were still raw. Like I'd scratched them myself, streaks of blood. Xie Changting froze, his eyes suddenly reddening. He sprang to his feet, not even setting down the ointment, and strode out. Outside the door, he summoned someone. His voice, strained with suppressed anger, commanded, "Investigate." Meanwhile, in the Eastern Palace, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince was in a rage. He hurled one set of teaware after another. Not even the vases in the study were spared. Your Highness, Imperial Physician Zhang has been summoned to the Duke's residence and has not yet returned. Xie Chengyuan snatched the inkstone beside him and hurled it at the messenger. The Duke's residence. Xie Changting. What was he up to? That Imperial Physician Zhang was nothing but a fraud. Jiang Man never forgot Xie Changting. The moment Xie Changting appeared, she didn't even spare him a glance. Your Highness, the Empress. Her Majesty suffers from unrelenting headaches. She requests your presence. A report came from outside the door. Xie Chengyuan surveyed the devastation on the floor, suddenly overcome with irritation. He grabbed a teacup nearby, ready to smash it. Suddenly, Xie Changting's accusatory words flashed through his mind. Fu Ying had accompanied him for 5 years. To counteract his poison, she vomited blood every 3 days. What else could possibly be wrong? When he lay unconscious in the Eastern Palace, everyone abandoned him like a fallen wall. What else could have happened? He would investigate until everything was crystal clear, leaving Xie Changting speechless. You. Xie Chengyuan glared at the kneeling secret guard. Go investigate. I recuperated in bed for half a month. The injury on my knee was worse than I'd imagined. The physician hesitated, asking if I often knelt. Or knelt in the snow. He said if delayed any longer, these legs would be ruined. Fortunately, Xie Changting wasn't present when he said this. He was extremely particular about my injuries. Each time he applied medicine, his aura was so heavy it made one hold their breath. It wasn't surprising. Our relationship should have been very good. The courtyard where I resided, while not extravagant, bore the marks of thoughtful care everywhere. The flowers, plants, and trees were all to my liking. The side rooms were arranged exactly like my maiden chamber back home. The furnishings within need not be mentioned. One day, while organizing my paintings and calligraphy, I unexpectedly came across a fishplay painting I had sought in vain throughout my youth. Did my husband specially seek this out for me? I asked cheerfully. Chunlu answered indirectly, Madam, you've finally seen it. What a way to put it. I was mute before, not blind, how could I not have seen? Yes, Chunlu had told me certain things. Like how I'd contracted muteness to save Xie Changting. Like how the Crown Prince and Xie Changting had always been at odds. No wonder I returned from the Eastern Palace covered in wounds. No wonder my father and brothers were imprisoned without cause. These past 2 weeks, the conflict between Xie Changting and Xie Chengyuan has raged fiercely. Xie Changting accused Xie Chengyuan of harboring personal vendettas and framing imperial officials. Xie Chengyuan countered by accusing Xie Changting of shielding relatives and condoning the duke's abduction of commoners' daughters. His Majesty commended Xie Changting for his 6-month absence, infiltrating enemy territory to secure a great victory at the frontier. He intended to promote him to the cabinet. Xie Chengyuan was the first to oppose. Xie Chengyuan recommended his own confidant as the Jiangnan provincial governor, stationed in Jiangnan. Xie Changting was the first to block it. Everyone knew the two had already torn their masks off. Another half-month passed, and my knee finally healed. My father, brother, and mother were also safe and sound. That day, a banquet was held in the palace. Xie Changting returned home earlier than usual, and I had everything prepared. Yet he seemed hesitant to speak. Lately, he often acted this way, as if he had something to tell me. But whenever our eyes met, he would hold back. This time, however, he spoke. If you don't want to go to the palace. I want to go. Every man had his wife by his side. How could my husband be alone? I watched his eyebrows arch. His eyelashes fluttered, and his fingers tightened. All right. He draped a fox fur cloak over me. Just be happy, man. Alas. That night's palace banquet did not bring me much joy. Truthfully, everything had started so well. I hadn't walked the streets of Chang'an in ages. Being able to step out for fresh air filled me with joy. I even saw father, mother, and brother. My voice had fully recovered over the past month, and they were overjoyed. They kept asking if Xie Changting had found some miraculous remedy. I'd lost all memory of when I'd lost my voice. How could I possibly recall how I got better? I'd planned to ask Xie Changting during dinner. But before the banquet began, a pair of eyes fixed on me. It was Xie Chengyuan. He and Xie Changting sat in the front row, side by side, facing each other across the table. Fu Ying busied herself pouring wine for Xie Chengyuan and feeding him pastries. Yet Xie Chengyuan only stared at me. When I moved closer to Xie Changting, his expression darkened further. I flashed Xie Changting a smile, and his expression darkened further. He really is sick. I decided to mimic his crown princess consort and nestled into Xie Changting's embrace, pouring him wine. I even fed him a grape. Xie Chengyuan slammed his wine cup onto the table. Madame Xue's Qin artistry is unmatched in the capital. On this lantern festival night, why not grace us with a performance? Noticing Xie Changting was about to move, I clamped down on his hand. With my other hand, I smashed the teacup in my grasp toward him without hesitation. As expected, Fu Ying caught the teacup almost instinctively. The crown prince's consort possesses martial arts skills unmatched among women. On this lantern festival, why not perform a sword dance? I still remembered. Fu Ying knew martial arts. And she was exceptionally skilled. What I hadn't anticipated was that seemingly no one else knew this. Whispers immediately began to stir. Even more unexpected was that Xie Chengyuan didn't grow angry. Instead, his face paled in an instant. After that, he remained silent, never troubling me again. It wasn't until the banquet was ending that Chunlu accompanied me to the lavatory. Before her startled cry reached my ears, I was dragged into the rockery. I've been investigating for a month and only just discovered she knows martial arts. Jiang Man, how did you know? Besides her martial skills, she received a sum of silver before entering the palace. Who gave it? Was it you? What was your intent? To make her your spy? Xie Chengyuan held me captive, his voice laced with feigned anguish. Man, we were childhood sweethearts. How could you treat me this way? And the secret passage in the Eastern Palace, only you and I knew of it. Why is it stained with blood? Did you even tell Xie Changting about the secret passage? Childhood sweethearts? Secret passage? I couldn't make sense of a single word. I struggled fiercely, but Xie Chengyuan only tightened his grip. And more, he leaned in close. You've used poisonous insects before, haven't you? The imperial physician said your voice mysteriously healed after being fed poison. There's only one explanation. You were mute because of the poisonous insects. When new poisonous insects entered your body, they first destroyed and then rebuilt, leading to your recovery. Man, you actually bred poisonous insects for him? He was never poisoned. Why would you need to breed poisonous insects for him? You risked your own life to save him. Do you love him that much? Do you love him so much that even the forgetful love bug couldn't make you forget him? Your Highness. Finding a gap, I shoved him away violently. If you're ill, summon the imperial physician. When did we grow up together? When did I ever know any secret passages in the Eastern Palace? And what is this bug you speak of? I've never heard of such a thing. Xie Chengyuan froze in shock. A true man acts with integrity. If you have issues with my husband, take it up with him. What kind of man harasses a woman? Xie Chengyuan stared at me blankly. I rubbed my wrist, sore from his grip, and by the way, we've only met a few times. We're not friends. Address me as Lady Xue. Stop calling me man all the time. I turned to leave. Xie Chengyuan grabbed my hand again. What did you say? His voice trembled slightly. Man, what did you say? You said we met only a few times, and there's no friendship? I was utterly exasperated and shook him off again. Your Highness, please behave yourself. He still pursued me. Man. Just then, a burst of fireworks lit up his deathly pale face. The person you've forgotten. Is me? Wrong. All wrong. Xie Chengyuan didn't attend the banquet that night, heading straight back to the Eastern Palace. A few orders were issued, and chaos erupted once more within the palace walls. By midnight, 3 groups of people had come and gone. The first group was the Secret Guards. There is indeed a martial arts organization in the outskirts of the capital that feeds poison to assassins for control. We found no one named Fu Ying among them, but there was someone called Fu Ying. She was redeemed 5 years ago. Her name is unknown, but she is a woman. The second group was Imperial Physician Zhang. The blood used to feed the poisonous insects has no other purpose besides antidotes. However, some impatient individuals and the common folk take shortcuts and use this method to cultivate poisonous insects. That is, forcibly extracting the poisonous insects after 7 days. Cultivating them this way for 7 days is equivalent to a year. For the cultivator, however, the consequences range from minor damage to the meridians to death. The third group was Fu Ying, your servant. Your servant did indeed accept my sister's silver. But your servant never claimed it was I who neutralized the poison for your Highness. Moreover, I have always urged your Highness not to punish my sister, not to make her feed the poisonous insects. Your Highness, it was you yourself. Xie Chengyuan felt an overwhelming urge to smash something. Yet he found nothing left to destroy in the study. The letter? He asked the shadow guard in a trembling voice. Man wrote me a letter. Where is it? Fu Ying shrank back, trembling. Your Highness, the letter. You burned it. The final thread holding Xie Chengyuan's composure snapped. He had wronged her. He had burned the letter she gave him. He punished her, tormented her. But the person she had forgotten was him. Not Xue Changting. From beginning to end, his man had always loved him. Xie Chengyuan abruptly rose and strode toward the exit. That crown prince has put me in a foul mood. For some reason, when he mentioned that secret passage and bloodstains, images actually flashed through my mind. One moment, I was slitting my wrists to bleed, feeding the blood to someone. The next, I was clutching a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding, running through a hidden passage. Fortunately, Xue Changting took me to the Lantern Festival. He must have sensed my gloom, for on the way back to the mansion, he ordered a detour down Chang'an Street. On Lantern Festival night, Chang'an Street was bustling with excitement. I followed him, admiring the lanterns and solving riddles. We even bought a string of candied hawthorn berries. My elder brother never allowed me to eat them. He said street vendors' food wasn't clean. Xie Chengyuan was the same. Xie Chengyuan? It seemed I had indeed known him before. Who cares? We even went to listen to opera. During the performance, I deliberately ordered a pot of wine, watching Xue Changting's reaction. He sighed and poured me a cup himself. Do whatever you want, man. You don't need to watch my face. Woo. What good fortune did I cultivate in a past life to marry such a wonderful husband? The wine warmed me, and I grew even happier. I chattered away, clinging to him. I spoke of how, after Princess Mingzhao's distant marriage, no one had kept me company for wine and opera in ages. I spoke of those years studying at the Imperial Academy alongside Princess Mingzhao. I spoke of our first meeting at the Imperial Academy. Back then, everyone mocked you. Yet now, you're the one most favored by His Majesty. Xie Chengyuan paused. You still remember? Sipping the warm wine, how could I forget? Xie Chengyuan lowered his long lashes, a gentle smile rising in his warm eyes. As if merely remembering such trifles were enough to satisfy him. The play ended near midnight. Before stepping down, Xie Chengyuan once more adjusted my fox fur robe. Truthfully, I wasn't cold from the wine. But having drunk a bit too much, I stumbled as I dismounted. Fortunately, Xie Chengyuan reacted swiftly. The moment our bodies touched, both of us froze. I wasn't cold. But his warmth enveloped me. And tonight's moon was so full, so bright. His face was veiled in a soft, luminous haze from the moonlight. I couldn't resist reaching out to touch his long lashes. Husband, have I ever told you? You're truly beautiful. His arms tightened around my waist. His heartbeat pounded like a drum, piercing through our clothes. I saw his Adam's apple bob as warm breath washed over me. I closed my eyes. Suddenly, a thunderous shout rang out beside me. What are you doing? Xie Chengyuan instinctively grabbed my wrist, shielding me behind him. Xie Chengyuan's face was twisted with fury as he stormed forward. Xie Chengyuan. What do you think you're doing? Let go of man. Xie Chengyuan's entire body had turned icy cold as he stared at Xie Chengyuan with a chill in his eyes. What my wife and I do at our own doorstep is none of your highness the crown prince's business. You, Xie Chengyuan turned his gaze to me. Man, I have something to discuss with you. Come here. Xie Chengyuan scoffed. Has your highness consulted the imperial physician? Has your blindness of heart and mind been cured? You, Xie Chengyuan was silenced again. It seems this incurable disease will persist until death. Your highness, you do well to stop pretending to be human. You're causing trouble. Xie Chengyuan's face drained of color with fury. I nearly laughed out loud. Xie Chengyuan was usually the most proper and dignified, yet here he was, sharp-tongued and quick-witted. Man, listen to me. Xie Chengyuan turned back to me. I've investigated everything. I wronged you. I can apologize. I can make amends. I'll divorce Fu Ying. It's her fault. She made us miss our chance. Manon, come with me. You've only forgotten me, you never truly loved the man beside you. You, shut up. I didn't want to hear a single word more. Want to know what we're doing, huh? I yanked the man beside me closer, tiptoeing up. The entire world fell silent. I don't recall how Xie Chengyuan left. Or rather, I didn't notice at all. Xie Chengyuan's lips were soft and cool. I felt my heart pound violently several times. That night, I had a dream. I dreamed I was covered in blood. My hands hurt, my legs hurt, but my heart hurt the most. It was Xie Chengyuan who drew the long sword in his hand and shielded me behind him. He who harms my wife deserves death. Suddenly, I began longing for Xie Chengyuan to come home. In the past, he would come by after his shift. He'd help change my bandages, play chess with me, or bring a few books. Back then, seeing him made me happy. But it felt different from how I felt now. Unfortunately, Xie Chengyuan grew busier. Xie Chengyuan was determined to oppose him at every turn. He made trouble for him constantly. I could only see Xie Chengyuan once every few days. Xie Chengyuan, however, seemed quite idle. Since the Lantern Festival, he'd sent me a letter every single day. I hadn't read a single one, let alone replied. He'd apparently tried barging into the Duke's residence twice, only to be turned away both times. It was after this that Xie Chengyuan's visits home, once every 3 or 5 days, stretched to once every 7, then even 10 days. As winter gave way to summer, another major event shook the capital around the Dragon Boat Festival. Xie Chengyuan, true to his word, divorced his wife. It was he who declared Fu Ying a daughter of the Jiang family. And it was he who accused Fu Ying of fabricating her identity, committing the crime of deceiving the emperor. That day, he sent me something. Red silk brocade, embroidered with gold thread. It was the red veil he had once promised to embroider himself. Yes, I remembered. I don't know when it began, but slowly, fragments of the past came back to me. His love for me, his hurt toward me. Not everything, but enough to glimpse the whole from a single view. I burned that red veil, along with the letters he'd written me these past days, to ashes. Sent them back to the Eastern Palace. Between him and me, only ashes remained. Truthfully, I knew. This act of mine would enrage Xie Chengyuan. But I also knew that when Xie Chengyuan was consumed by fury, he would do things of utter foolishness. We grew up together. I knew him too well. The Eastern Palace and the Duke's mansion had reached a point of irreconcilable conflict. Though Xie Changting was deeply favored by His Majesty, he did not bear the Xie surname. Privately, he is my husband, and I do not wish to see him defeated. Publicly, given Xie Chengyuan's current disposition, should he ascend the throne one day, it would be the common people who would suffer. I do not wish for him to prevail. Thus, I quietly lit this fire. Sure enough, after the Dragon Boat Festival, tensions between the Eastern Palace and the Duke's residence grew increasingly tense. At first, Chunlu could still tell me what was happening, just as she had before. Later, even the mansion fell silent. I only knew that day after day passed, and Xie Changting hadn't returned for ages. Until Mid-Autumn Festival. The day he came home, the sunset was breathtakingly beautiful. My hands had already begun to heal, and I was sitting in the courtyard practicing the qin. I looked up and saw his slender figure stretched long by the slanting sunlight, bathed in a thin layer of golden light. Husband! You've returned just in time. Come, listen, have my hands truly healed? Overjoyed, I pulled him close. We listened to music, shared a meal, played chess. By now, I cared little for what transpired outside our walls. Human affairs had run their course. What remained was destiny's will. Xie Changting, too, carried on as before. While listening to my playing, he pointed out which fingers needed more practice. During meals, he listened quietly as I recounted amusing incidents from the manor. When playing chess, he maintained a dignified expression while deliberately setting traps for me. Husband. Man. After 3 games, we spoke simultaneously. Both of us paused in surprise. A month apart had left him slightly thinner, yet his gaze remained steady. When he looked at me, it was warm and composed. I gazed back at him. For a moment, I forgot what I had intended to say. Husband, I. Xie Changting, however, clearly hadn't forgotten. Sighing, he lifted his gaze and looked at me again. Man, I am not your husband. Man, what the Crown Prince said last time was not wrong. You have forgotten some things, and you have forgotten him. We agreed long ago, the day His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is reinstated would be the day I give you the divorce papers. Our marriage was but an empty title. The one you've always loved has always been His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. I sat motionless before the chessboard. Xie Changting lowered his eyes. These past days, I have been despicable. He drew a letter from his sleeve and handed it to me. This should have been given to you long ago. Once you sign it, you'll have no further ties to the Duke's household. I stared at the 3 characters divorce agreement printed on the paper. For some reason, a wave of heaviness gripped my chest. This is a travel permit. Xie Changting handed me another envelope. Inside is an address. I should accompany you, but my duties have been overwhelming lately. In the future, if you wish to remember everything, go to the address in the letter and seek out the person mentioned. He tore off the jade pendant he wore. Seeing this, he will help you. Handing over the jade pendant, he gave me a 3rd letter. These are banknotes and deeds to fields and houses. Your dowry is substantial, yet inconvenient to carry. The Jiang family's holdings are mostly in the capital. These banknotes can be cashed anywhere, and the deeds cover properties nationwide. Should you ever wish to leave the capital, they may prove useful. I stared at the 3 letters and jade pendants scattered across the chessboard. Suddenly, it dawned on me, something is about to happen, isn't it? Xie Changting made no attempt to conceal it. Man, my struggle with the crown prince has reached a point where one of us must fall. These next few days, pack your belongings and return to the Jiang residence first. Your father and brothers maintain neutrality in court. Regardless of who wins or loses, the Jiang family will remain untouched. Before I could speak, he added, you needn't feel guilty about this. The divorce papers were agreed upon between us before our marriage. The banknotes and land deeds, you've been married into the Duke's household for so long, they should rightfully be yours. Breaking the curse is simply my duty. Xie Changting paused, then smiled with resignation. As your dearest friend, it's only right to help you. The tightness in my chest suddenly transformed into a dense, stinging ache. I wanted to say no. But I couldn't articulate why. Not husband and wife. Not dearest friends. Then what were we? Monjin, Xie Changting remained as gentle as water. I have only one request. He rose, crouching before me, and took my hand. If I fail, if you break the curse, remember Xie Chengyuan, and resolve to return to him. Could you? He gazed at me, so devoutly, so intensely. Love yourself a little more? More memories flooded back. Xie Changting escorted me back to the Jiang residence. I watched his carriage disappear into the distance, rooted to the spot for a long while. Scenes with Xie Chengyuan played out frame by frame in my mind. It seemed I remembered everything without needing the curse lifted. Yet the more I recalled, the calmer my heart grew. Gone were the lingering tenderness and the heart-wrenching pain. Upon returning home, news flowed more freely. Father and brother discussed court affairs without hiding anything from me. Xie Changting submitted a memorial. Crown Prince Xie Chengyuan had colluded with the Chang tribes of the northern frontier. The Chang had gifted him several victories and bounties of gold and silver. He had long since signed a pact with the Chang. Upon his ascension, he would surrender 32 northern border cities. Xie Chengyuan vehemently denied the accusations, denouncing Xie Changting as a slanderer with treacherous intentions. He further countered that Xue had only truly colluded with foreign tribes during his 6-month posting in Lingnan. Yet, the villain had struck first, deliberately framing the heir apparent. Both men presented witnesses and evidence. One was detained in the Supreme Court of Justice, the other confined within the Eastern Palace. His Majesty feels profound remorse toward the Crown Prince over that past injustice. He will proceed with utmost caution this time. The young master is being foolish. The treaty lacks the Crown Prince's imperial seal, it can easily be dismissed as forgery. His witnesses are former confidants of the accused. How can anyone find them credible? After all, His Highness holds the dignity of Crown Prince. Torture to extract a confession is unthinkable. But in the Dali Temple prison, father and elder brother shook their heads repeatedly as they spoke. Then they asked me, have you finalized the divorce papers? Don't wait until the last minute to file them with the authorities, for your reputation. I rose and left. I didn't believe it. Back in the Imperial Academy, the Grand Tutor often praised Xie Changting's brilliance. His excessive praise drew the envy of fellow students, who often made life difficult for him. I simply don't believe his abilities are so limited. Speaking of the Imperial Academy, I couldn't help asking Chunlu, do you know how your master and I first met? Chunlu shook her head in confusion. I tapped my forehead. How could I have forgotten? But my suspicions were not unfounded. The Prince of Baikwang arrived in the capital and caused a major uproar in the palace. He declared that if the court refused to recognize the contract personally signed by the Crown Prince, he would return tenfold the gold and silver given to the Crown Prince back then. He even detailed the specific purpose of every single piece of gold and silver. This inevitably brought up the case of the deposed Crown Prince from years past. Were the two princes and the imperial consort truly killed by the Crown Prince? That very night, His Majesty summoned Xie Chengyuan to the palace. That very night, Xie Chengyuan rebelled. Truthfully, Xie Chengyuan's position as Crown Prince had always been relatively secure. His mother passed away early, yet she remained the emperor's only legitimate consort. Back when the Crown Prince was deposed, Xie Chengyuan once asked me, Man, do you trust me? I nodded with unwavering certainty. No matter how favored the imperial consort became, she remained merely a consort. How could he possibly do something so foolish? Looking back now, the foolish one all along was me. Chaos erupted in the capital. Father and my brothers rushed to the palace. I waited with mother. The courtyard lay silent and empty, while outside, flames blazed sky-high. No one knew how this would end. Not until the first light of dawn did the steward arrive, his face aglow with joy. "Master has returned. Master has returned." Mother and I hurried to the front courtyard. At some turn, a heavy blow struck the back of my neck. Darkness engulfed my vision, and I lost consciousness. When I awoke, I found myself in a mountain cave. Opening my eyes, I saw Xie Chengyuan. Deep into the night, mountain winds howled. He crouched by the campfire, adding wood to the flames. Seeing I'd woken, he curved his brows in a smile. Man, you must be hungry. What would you like to eat? Wild boar or wild rabbit?" For a moment, I felt dazed. Wild rabbit, then. Xie Chengyuan picked up the prepared meat nearby. He placed it over the fire. Man always loved my roasted wild rabbit. Too bad I couldn't find any honey today. I'll have to roast another one for you another day. I pinched myself. The palace coo, the flames, the quiet courtyard, the dull ache at the base of my neck. Bit by bit, it all came back. Xie Chengyuan appeared here. Xie Chengyuan had lost. Man, do you remember when you were 14, how you coveted Ming Zhao's fox fur cloak? Xie Chengyuan still smiled. I said I'd hunt one for you. It was in these very mountains. He glanced outside. I glanced outside too. Not only was the wind fierce, but the snow was heavy too. It seemed I'd been unconscious for a very long time. I hunted inside for 3 days, and you cried outside for 3 days. Insisting you dreamt I was injured and had to come down to find me. And you were right. Xie Chengyuan. I cut him off. I don't want to hear it. Xie Chengyuan's smile faltered, then lifted again, then sleep a little longer. I'll call you when the rabbit is ready. Xie Chengyuan, I won't go with you. I looked at him calmly. If you take me, you'll either chop off my limbs, poison me into silence, or kill me outright. Otherwise, it will be you who meets your end sooner or later. Xie Chengyuan's face drained of color inch by inch, yet he only murmured, "No. Man loves me most. Man would venture alone into the mountains for me, would sacrifice herself to feed the poisonous insects for me, would." Stop dreaming. I sneered. There will never be such a foolish person in this world again. Jiang man. Xie Chengyuan suddenly flung the roasted rabbit from his hand. I only misunderstood you. What more must I do for you to forgive me? He strode forward in 2 strides, seizing my hand. Man, when you were furious, you refused to even look at the letters I sent you, didn't you? Didn't you burn them to ashes? I never asked you to cure Fu Ying's poison. Fu Ying deceived you, deceived me. Now she endures torture daily in prison. Are you still unsatisfied? And that curse. That curse allowed you to speak again. Wasn't that a blessing in disguise? Yes, that curse. Xie Chengyuan's eyes brightened. It was the curse that made you forget me. Manon, once we leave the capital, I'll take you to break the curse. When you remember everything. Xie Chengyuan, I remembered everything long ago. I gazed into Xie Chengyuan's eyes. I gave Fu Ying silver to care for you, to protect you. The bloodstains in the secret passage were from treating your poison. The wound on my wrist wouldn't stop bleeding. We were childhood sweethearts, vowing to grow old together. I once loved you more than my own life. I remember everything now. A flicker of confusion crossed Xie Chengyuan's face. Xie Changting? Did someone remove your curse? Who is Xie Changting? Xie Chengyuan had gone mad. In this cold, cramped cave, he alternated between sobbing and laughing. The forgetful curse, erasing the love of your life. You remembered me, but forgot Xie Changting. Ha 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 ha. Xie Changting. Always Xie Changting. Father favored him, and even you fell for him. Why him? He's just a bastard born to a whore. He kicked over the burning campfire, hurling flaming logs one by one against the cave wall. Why him of all people? Why did you have to marry him? If you'd chosen anyone else, we wouldn't be in this mess today. No. You lied to me, didn't you? He grabbed me again. Come with me. I'll show you something you've forgotten. You must have forgotten. He dragged me out of the cave. Blizzards lashed our faces. I knew what he intended to show me. That year, while hunting foxes in the mountains, he fell from his horse and was injured. I found him. We carved our names into the banyan tree in the valley. There was actually a firelight in the mountains. Xie Chengyuan paid it no mind. I'd warned him before, when enraged, he'd do the most foolish things. As we drew closer to the light, I pulled the signal flare hidden in my sleeve. Whoosh, a firework bloomed in the sky. Within a quarter of an hour, we were completely surrounded. The leader wore all white. In the firelight, his face was as cold as frost. Xie Chengyuan, however, was overjoyed. Man, you really did deceive me. He held me at knife point, whispering in my ear, you said that on purpose, didn't you? So I'd bring you out here, so Xie Changting could find you? Is he Xie Changting? I studied the man opposite us. He's better looking than you. You. Xie Chengyuan pressed the dagger closer. I smiled. Xie Chengyuan, is this what you call loving me? He recoiled as if burned, pulling the dagger back. Your Highness. Xie Changting stood with hands clasped behind his back, his gaze never meeting mine. His Majesty has yet to pass judgment on your Highness. Why not return with me and seek leniency? Stop pretending. Xie Chengyuan forced me back 2 steps. He loved that whore of a mother of yours so much he let you take the Xie surname and become crown prince. How could he possibly need someone like me? In this regard, His Majesty does indeed surpass your Highness. Xie Changting showed no anger. At least he doesn't profess love with his lips while raising a blade against the one he claims to cherish. Xie Chengyuan gritted his teeth. The knuckles of his dagger-wielding hand turned white. Then I shall see how Prince Xue chooses. He pressed the dagger closer to my throat. Cut off your own arm before me, and I'll release Man. You may take her back with you. How does that sound? Xie Changting smiled faintly. Even if I die before your eyes, you won't release Man. After all. His gaze was cold and calculating as he looked at Xie Chengyuan. Your Highness, you've always only wanted to drag Man down with you, into hell. Xie Chengyuan's hand jerked violently. In that instant, I pushed his hand away and crouched down. Behind Xie Changting, archers who had long drawn their bows to the full released their arrows. The sound of the dagger hitting the ground. Then, a body fell. I turned back. Xie Chengyuan lay sprawled in the snow. An arrow was driven straight through his heart. Crimson blood stained the crystalline white. Man. Xie Chengyuan clutched the hem of my skirt tightly. Blood spilled from his mouth. I love you. You. Believe me. I shook my head. Xie Chengyuan, that isn't love. Love isn't descending into hell together. It is, even amidst the flames of purgatory, striving with every ounce of strength to lift her back to the mortal world. You merely loved the fact that I loved you. It seemed I had forgotten something. I actually had a husband. And what a peculiar husband he was. He never brought me to his family home, nor did he ever come to find me. Until one day, I discovered a divorce decree in my trousseau. If you have no affection, then I shall part. He gave me the divorce papers. Was he saving them for the new year? I signed my name and asked the maid beside me, where is Xie Changting? That maid, somehow having slipped past the steward's notice, stared blankly and said, he's at the Duke's residence. He was the heir apparent of the Duke's mansion. I couldn't fathom how he'd broken my heart so completely that I'd forgotten him, and those around me dared not speak his name. Clutching the divorce papers, I headed straight for the Duke's mansion. No need to pick an auspicious day. I must hurry to the magistrate's office to report this and reclaim my household registration. Yet my husband dawdled, taking an agonizingly long time to emerge. His expression was like he'd lost his parents. Hurry, before the magistrate's office closes. I waved the divorce papers in my hand. His face paled even more, his eyes nearly reddening. Man, are you sure? Of course. I've even signed my name. He swayed, and I feared he might collapse. See? Strange, isn't it? He was the one who drafted the divorce papers. Yet he acted as if I were the one abandoning him. Please deliver my dowry to the Jiang residence another day. Very well. I won't be returning to my quarters. Should anything else be needed, have it sent there as well. Understood. I'll return to pack my belongings. If you've left anything behind at the Jiang residence, I'll bring it to you. Very well. He was surprisingly agreeable. Oh, and that Chunlu, she's a maid in your household, right? Yes. The words had barely left my mouth when he froze. Then I'll send her back tomorrow too. He remained frozen in place. Man, you don't remember Chunlu? I don't even remember you. How could I remember a maid from your household? He froze completely, staring straight at me, his dark pupils unmoving. I watched him inexplicably. Then I saw the color return to his face, inch by inch. Then he lifted his foot, walked from the left side of the entrance hall to the right. Then from the right, he paced back to the left. Finally, he strode over and pulled me tightly into his embrace. Warm, damp moisture trickled down the hollow of my neck. Like something lost and found again. More like. After enduring the clouds, the moon finally shines bright. The end.